afternoon, good evening. I'm Melvin Thompson. I'm the executive director of the Endeleo Institute. That sign right back there. Welcome to another edition of By Any Greens Necessary. It's a show about our nonprofit, and it's also about our farmers market that takes place at our home church, our parent church, Trinity United Church of Christ, which is located at 400 West 95th Street in the beautiful Washington Heights community. So glad to be back with you in the cool air. Am I a bit darker? It seemed, did the sun get me a little bit? Because I think I've been out a little bit. Yeah. It's nice and humid and warm, and I understand we're getting ready to get some real heat over the next couple of days. This is farmers market weather, though. I mean, the farmers don't blink an eye. We just had another spectacular warm day at the market. I want to show you the where we are. This is Trinity's Community Farmers Market. We're located at 467 West 95th Street. And for those who may be a little bit confused, it's at the corner of 95th and Normal, right across the street from our church. We're in our church parking lot. The folks that you see right here are our illustrious Pastor Otis Moss III. His wife is on the other end. That's Monica Moss, First Lady Monica Moss. And the gardener extraordinaire is Paula Anglin. So they're in our George Washington Carver garden, growing wonderful fruits and vegetables. It is an amazing place. I believe we still have the butterfly. I don't know if we still have that, but inside of this garden we have butterflies and all kinds of wonderful things. So I strongly urge you to come out and not just visit the farmers market. That's a given, but the things that we have that are very complementary to sustainable food and feeding our people. The black farmers from Pembroke, Illinois, you hear me talk about them on a regular basis. They come from Pembroke, Illinois, which is about 60 miles south of the city. They get there very early, like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and they come with just a truckload of things that they've harvested over the past several months, and they bring them to us fresh. It's just an amazing operation, and I think, how many farmers do we have now? Is it six? Yeah, so we have 6 African American farmers that all hail from Pembroke, Illinois, and I think we added one from last year. I think we had 5, and we added one, Iyabo, and they are amazing. And I promised them that I was going to get Brother Quay Lee on the show, hopefully next week, because I really want our audience to find out more about what it really takes in this modern era of technology and all these, artificial intelligence, all of this, about what it's like to really still keep your hands in the soil and get your hands dirty, to actually grow food and grow things in the right way without all the pesticides and the herbicides and all the other things that make our food look attractive in the grocery store. And so I'm going to get Brother Quay Lee to talk about it. He wrote me a really long, and I think I mentioned this at the last on the last show, that he wrote me a really long email, very thoughtful about what the process entails and what they actually go through. You think they're just driving up and they've got all of this food and it just magically appears. There's a whole lot. It's a very arduous process, one that I think even our own as African Americans we've gotten away from because of the convenience of the 21st century. I mean, we can now order our food and have it delivered right to our door now. We don't even have to go to a grocery store, and yet we still have a population, a small, struggling population of African American farmers who still cultivate, who still harvest, who still sweat, make the load up, pack up, and make the trek all the way to the city in the hopes of selling everything that they've brought. And so it's no guarantee. It's not like they know they're going to sell out. They just happen to be fortunate at this time that they're doing relatively well. But I'm taking this opportunity to really implore you as an audience, and we hope you call and tell us your opinion about farmers markets and what they mean to you right now. 312-738-1060, because it's really important that we get to the real core of shopping with each other and buying with each other to lift each other up and become sustainable communities, because nobody's driving in and riding in to do it. In fact, people are leaving our community, department stores. I mean, we're still reeling from, a Target that's left our community at the corner of down there at 87th and Cottage Grove, and now there's just this gigantic vacant space where we used to faithfully come and spend our money with people who made a decision to just up and leave our community. So what do we do now? Do we just jump in our cars and follow Target wherever it goes because they happen to be Target? No, I think this is an opportunity for not just farmers markets, but other vendors, other African American entrepreneurs and small businesses that have a dream, that have a plan, and certainly a ready and willing audience with consumer dollars to spend. I don't need to hear that we have that $1 trillion in consumer spending power. I don't need to hear that anymore. I just want to see it deployed in our community so that dollar can famously circulate more and several times in our community before it leaves. One of the things that I've shared with our audience is the fact that we had a regional planner do a study of the Washington Heights area. And I don't know if you all are familiar with Washington Heights, but it's a solid working class community on the far southwest side of the city. 95th Street is our main corridor, although it runs kind of parallel with Roseland, and there are parts of Roseland that are considered part of Washington Heights. So there's there's Lilydale, there's Brainerd, there are the different factions of what make up Washington Heights. And so I say that all to say that one of the things we found out in addition to it being a solid community is that it has the highest home ownership rate in the entire city of Chicago at roughly about 67%. That may have backed off a little bit in the last couple of years because the report was done in 2016, but that tells you something to have a report come back from regional planners and tell you that this far south side community has more homeowners than anybody on the north side, right, or the northwest side, right, and so that should bring all kinds of retail into the community, and yet it doesn't. In fact, we have a really blighted 95th Street corridor, and that's what Endeleo's mission is as the nonprofit arm of Trinity United Church of Christ, is to revitalize that 95th Street corridor and bring the businesses that can be supported by the people who live there. Unfortunately, we have businesses that aren't of the quality that we desire, and we're not gonna fall for that and accept that. And so one of the things that came from the report is the fact that 198 million, that's $198 million leaks out of our community. In other words, folks in our community who don't have the things that they want the things that they deserve, the things that they're probably exposed to where they work, they jump in their cars and or maybe jump on public transportation and go get those things. And so invariably the community suffers, and so the tax burden on the business people who are there are forced to bear that burden because they don't have I guess an accumulation of like businesses next to them to share that load. And so, coming and going, the few businesses that we do have struggle to maintain it because they're too busy paying property taxes because they don't have buildings and businesses next door to them where they can all operate and share in that. And so, it's really unpeeling of the onion to get to the core issues in our community. And so, for me, I always look at things from an asset-based perspective. I was in a meeting yesterday talking about it, and I've never looked at our community, despite the challenges that we have, as with a deficit mentality, because there are plenty of things and plenty of anchors in our community that we need to be leveraging to draw businesses and to create businesses that our communities should support. The issue is, if we build these buildings, if we go through the labor and the arduous process of creating these businesses, will they be supported? And so that's one of the challenges that we face, that, people will say, yeah, well, I went there, I had a bad experience, they didn't have what I necessarily wanted, so I'm never going back there again. And you've heard that story. And so we can't give up on our people because we've been treated unfairly and badly. We were in a meeting earlier today, a community meeting, and we were talking about, older, we were talking to some older adults, and we were talking about the history of discrimination. And when I asked the question about how many people have ever been followed, I think 80% of the hands went up, because that's an experience that our people have gone through in just trying to get basic amenities in grocery stores, department stores, maybe higher end stores, where people are walking around thinking that we're up to no good or something like to that effect. And so we settle for that, and yet we still go back to those stores and patronize those stores, and then we have maybe a not so great experience, and instead of pulling the vendor or the owner of that business who looks like us and saying, hey, you know what, I really didn't have an enjoyable experience. Your wait staff or someone here, was kind of discourteous to me, and I didn't appreciate it, and I can spend my money just about anywhere. And I think we don't do that enough. I don't think we I think we just make up our minds that okay, this is subpar. I thought this was all of that, and it really isn't. And that's detrimental to us all. We all pay for that with that kind of attitude. So just be mindful of it. And the farmers market, for us as an entity that has supported it for the last, I think, 3 years, 4 years? Is it 4 years, T? 4 years. So we're going on 4 years now of supporting this market because we believe in it, and particularly because we've got other vendors who are non-farmers who bring their wares and sell just incredible. We've got a baker who, entrepreneur, been doing this 6 years, not from Chicago, that we're talking to now about doing more things beyond the farmers market, and really giving him an opportunity and the exposure to our congregation and the wider community. Now, this is a guy that supplies 15 different farmers markets. I didn't know that. I thought, it was 5 or, 3 or 4 markets. But he actually provides baked goods, delicious cookies, pies, you name it, to 15 different farmers markets. And so he's got a South Loop place where he does all of this wonderful stuff is actually looking on the south side to, kind of establish a beachhead and a kitchen space to work out of so he can be closer to his community. And so we're helping with that right now as we speak, because the last thing we want to do is handicap a brother that's got a great product. Trust me. Come to the market. You will see. I can't mention the product on Can TV, but trust and believe it is delicious. I have completely OD'd on his cookies. But here's a guy that's looking to possibly expand his operations and is simply looking for a roof over his head and a commercial kitchen, which we don't have in abundance in our community. So there's another opportunity, because he's not the only entrepreneur or chef or baker. We had Chef Maria on last week, and she talked about all the opportunities and all the things she's doing on the west side, and volunteer work to bring healthy food and show folks how to cook it and how to prepare it and how to do these things yourself. I mean, there are ample opportunities to really rev up in our own community by our own hands the small business opportunity that exists. And access to capital is always an issue. But if you can show that you've got the population, you've got the concept, you've got the product, then access to capital is what Endeleo is working now feverishly to make sure we connect these young entrepreneurs and small business people who have a dream and maybe working out of their homes and, just doing things, having meetings in, coffee shops, and don't have their own place to hang a shingle. We want to change that whole paradigm and create along the 95th Street corridor a opportunity for businesses of color to operate and have those opportunities and connect them with programs that you don't get capital overnight. It's just like anything else. You build a relationship, you establish trust, you show your character, you work on your credit, you build your credit, and all of a sudden, folks are trusting you with X amount of dollars. You perform well, you show outcomes, you show your customer base, and all of a sudden, you've got a deal with a financial partner, and now you've got a partnership with a financial entity where you just can pick up the phone, and now it's like, hey, listen, I'm going to need X amount of dollars. They understand your business plan. They've helped you create it, and so now you're a viable entity. And so it's a process. And I think in a microwave kind of world where we're so used to things happening like yesterday, you just throw it in the microwave 40 seconds and you've got a meal. Business doesn't work that way. You have to establish and start to create the kind of relationships that are conducive to long-term sustainability. I was in our board meeting and we were, talking about different opportunities, and, some of the seasoned board members were talking about how many businesses have failed that they've seen go down the drain and, all of those things. But at some point, you've got to say, okay, if we're going to be in charge of our own destiny, we've got to get the training, we've got to get the know-how, we've got to get the awareness and the education that is plentiful. I can't tell you how many. I was at Chicago State University earlier this week, Wednesday morning, a room full of small business professionals, bankers, the state of Illinois, you name it, all at the campus, imploring people to learn how to go through the system, establish yourself in the state system, so when these grants and these opportunities do come down the pipe, you are prepared because you're registered, and it's a process, and you can learn, and it doesn't cost you anything. You can learn how to register your business or your entity, how to become an entrepreneur. I think it costs, less than maybe $100 now to actually establish an LLC or to incorporate yourself. The state has really come down on its costs, and so it's just a matter of getting that kind of technical assistance that you need. And once you've done that, then you're established. And now you can start to think about, a business plan and what that looks like. And then getting that, what they call your elevator speech, right? Like, what is your business? What do you make? What do you sell? What service do you render? I mean, there are all kinds of opportunities. And believe it or not, as much as we've kind of gone to the internet and e-commerce and, ordering things with our phones and all of those things, there's still some in-person things that exist. I mean, there are laundromat operations. I mean, we are looking at creating a laundromat experience in Washington Heights, because you have to travel at least, I believe, 4 miles before you can get to a laundromat. And there are populations in our community that don't have access to that. And there are even people who have single-family homes and have those facilities, but every now and then would like to go and visit a neighborhood local laundromat and maybe bring a quilt or a heavier blanket that they may not necessarily want to use in their own space. And plus, it's a social gathering aspect. So, I mean, coffee shops, cafes, laundromats, they're all really social gathering spaces. And so, when you're thinking of, becoming an entrepreneur, you don't necessarily have to be a farmer, but you can really cultivate a really good business that people want to patronize if you are willing to commit yourself to learning beyond what you actually do to the mechanics of how to do those things. So if you need an attorney, if you need someone to help you create a business plan, if you need someone to go over inventory with you, all of these things, managing inventory, all of these things, managing people, organization, HR, operations, it seems daunting, but you don't need to know how to do all of those things. There are people out here, and there are agencies that can do that for little or nothing. And just being in a room with all of those bankers who are reflective of the community, who understand the struggle of getting a loan, or just sitting with a banker and understanding the language and the verbiage that bankers use. African American bankers and bank professionals understand that, and they're willing to do as much hand holding as possible to get you to the place where you can understand terms, you can understand financing, you can understand, your own credit, your own sustainability, all of those things to make you a long-standing member of the community from a business standpoint. And I'll share this last point. I think we got maybe less than a couple of minutes. This is our heritage. This is where we came from. The world of work hasn't been in existence all that long, meaning we didn't always go to a job and work for other people. We worked for ourselves. We did a particular trade, and then we traded with someone else who did something different. So the bartering system, where we traded services, and you got what you needed, I got what I needed, we were able to make money. And so the world of work is not that old. So to grow up and think about being an entrepreneur is not far-fetched. In fact, it's the norm for our people. And we were forced to really learn a trade and do those things when we didn't have the opportunity to go out and get a small business loan because we were discriminated and redlined and all of those things. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. Hope you can join us next Saturday at the Farmers Market, 467 West 95th Street, and you'll see our community in work, at work, making money with each other. We hope you can join us from 8 o'clock in the morning to 1 p.m. in the afternoon. I'll see you out there, and take care.